Hi again, Doug here from X-Frames FPV, and today, well, we finally did it. I got a build video done, and there was a few little issues with some shots, and audio's not the greatest in the world, but you know what, it came together. I wanted to be over under an hour, but it's a little bit over, but that's okay. All in all, it went well. We built this new Skitzo dark matter and with the new Mr. Steele Motors. So we'll get right to the build video, and I hope you guys enjoy this. All right, well, you're here to witness the first, let me get the iron on here, the first in a build series. And I've been wanting to do full builds for for quite a while, but I just didn't have I was just scared, to be honest. So let's get right to it, okay guys? So what are we building today? Well, today we're building the Skitzo Dark Edition, and so we're gonna get right to it. This, the measurements here are 4, width's probably about 12, oh no, it's 14. So I really like the chamfered arms, and it's really good tight weave. Carbon fiber layers are super tight, so I'm excited about that. So let's get right to it. So what are we gonna need? Need 2.0, need some dikes, we'll need some soldering iron, solder. What else are we gonna need? That's probably it to start off, and then my handy dandy tweezers, or whatever you want to call them. One thing you guys will learn about me is I am really bad at naming things. A lot of times I will name things, say them wrong, say words wrong, and it's just part of who I am. And I would like to say I'm going to change, but doggone it, I haven't changed in my 40-something years yet. So, all right, let's get a new fresh battery tray here. All right, didn't think you really cared about seeing me clean the magnet tray here, so I did that off screen just to save you guys a little bit of pain and agony. So I have not built this frame. This would be, we'll kind of learn the steps together. I'm assuming, we've got somewhere bottom mount tray. So I'm assuming we're going to probably some longer screws. We pretty much only have, what are these, 12 millimeter. Check that out real quick. Yeah, 12 millimeter. So you only have these really long ones. So what we're gonna do is come up, and one thing I do like about this too is these builders are finally getting, and designers are getting to where they aren't making arms that are left front or whatever. These are all, they're interchangeable, and I really like that. So let's come up through. Well, it looks like I was shorted a 12 millimeter screw. It's not on the table. Not in with these. Okay, so we're gonna have to, that happens from time to time. Okay, so now that we've got them all screwed in, we just want to kind of just slowly kind of snug them up. All right, there's the bottom plate done. All right, let's get the motors. Okay, these are beautiful motors, aren't they? So I'm going to fit them and make sure that they're going to have long enough wires to get all the way into the 4-in-1, which they are. Okay, so at this point we could actually mount them up, and that's what we'll go ahead and do. Okay, so we're going to run these TPU printed mounts for the motors. So the screws that came with it, chances are going to be too small. No big deal, we've got replacements. Let's see. Yeah, it's going to be too short. Probably these 8mm ones are going to be perfect by the time we get through there. Yeah. I always like to test fit one and just kind of screw it in and make sure that we do have the clearance that we need. Okay, so that's good. So we're going to go ahead get out our thread lock. I always just put a little bit here in the corner. I don't usually do that though. I don't want too much thread lock on there. You want just enough to hold it. Okay. So this ended up being M3 by 8. A little more fiddly with the mounts on there because you got to get everything lined up, but it's worth it. You know, I was talking to Serge at Pyroflip the other day about soft mounting, and you know, we were both talking about we see the benefits of it, but you know, if you soft mount your motors, unless you have a really sensitive flight controller, you don't need to soft mount your flight controller, because you've soft mounted the part that's causing the vibrations, the only mechanical part on a quadcopter. So that's just some information. So we'll snug these up pretty good. Not super tight. Can you see? I'm trying to see if you guys can see that when I'm up here. Yeah, you can. Okay. That's them all soft mounted. And I'm not going to put any sleeving on the edges. I don't like to do that if, and this is going to be going to Texas, and it's going to have a rough life, and that sleeving just doesn't hold up. Just gets all torn. So we're just going to probably just run a little piece of tape around them, and then they'll be good. So now we move on to the 4-in-1. Okay, so I'm going to be running a pyro drone, which is basically a Foxeer arrow. That's going to give us our OSD. I was just looking to see what lens it is. I believe it's a 2.8. Yeah, so we'll be replacing that lens with 2.5 lens. I'm going to be running the Tramp, and that's a really good video transmitter that's impossible to get right now. They're doing some changes. There's been few people that have had problems with them burning out, and so it was due to spikes when you power everything up. So they're doing some changes that's going to change that. There is a fix. If you go to their website, to Immersion's website, they do have a fix for it. If you currently have this, it's just basically putting a diode in line. So, but they'll have information on that. This is our 4-in-1. Now this does not have, it's opto, so we know what opto means, right? Does not have any voltage regulator in it, no BEC. So I don't need these wires. I will save them because they're all kind of already nice and neat, and let's get a look at that. So opto, you know, if it says opto, you're just going to know it's not going to have any voltage regulator. Now, one thing too of note, you know, we've got it's not in any specific order based on clean flight or whatever you're running, because you know, different GUIs and people run different setups where their motors are. So this is just literally ran 1, 2, 3, 4. So you know, you're gonna have to adjust. So like if you see if we put it in here, there's no way that this lines up. You put it that way, M1's good, M2, and then on the side it's wrong. So we're going to go ahead and just mount it this way, and then we'll adjust. M2 will be M1, M3 will be M2. You get it. M4 is the only one that stays the same. So we're going to mount this here. Now, like I said, we are going to have to run a 5-volt BEC, 5-volt BEC. So it's not a big deal. You know, it's nice when these have them, but this one just doesn't. So let's go ahead and get these tinned up, and we'll kind of go from there. Okay, so I use this flux pin. I have a couple different kinds of flux. This is my favorite, although it is colored. It's just the best stuff I've ever used. And I also use it, I don't know if that's in shot. Let me see. I've got a marker here that shows what's in and what's out, and that's just out. My little space is getting crowded. But you also can use it to clean the tip. You know, when you're going in to solder something, it just absolutely cleans it really good. Hey, I like the smoke there. But this flux works really well. You just kind of activate it by pushing on it. Drop it in. Okay. That's all it'll need. And then we're going to solder it up. Okay. Now we're going to have to grab these two little points here. That's the place where we'll run our 5-volt back off of. So we're going to need to cut this back. I have these really nice. These were used back in my RC car days for cutting Lexan bodies, you know, to curve. But it works great for this kind of stuff because you can damage, you know, if you go in here with a straight set of scissors and you hit one of these just right, one of these components, you can damage it. But with these, because they're curved, when you go in, it's curved up and it's not going to do any damage. So, and that was really true, and I don't know why, but it seemed like the little bees, when they came out, man, those were really susceptible to that. So learned that quick. You don't want to replace ESCs. Okay, so we're gonna let me come back with the 5-volt BEC, and we'll wire that in. Okay, so these little Maytech, they're really easy to wire. They're adjustable. You can use them for either 5 or 12 volts. We're going to use them for 5 volts here because the only thing we're going to be powering with it is going to be the flight controller. But you can see on the back here, super simple. Got your voltage coming in. I'm sorry, other side, voltage. My eyes sometimes. Voltage coming in. So 7 to 21 volts, you can run up to 6S without a problem. And then 5 or 12 volts out, and you choose, if you want 12 volt, you just bridge those two pads, but we're using 5 volts, so let's go ahead and get this one wired up. I like to use my quad arms for this because it just makes it easier. And what I do is I just get it wired up. I put these little silicone, this is actually, what is it? It's silicone tubing for gas motors on RC cars or trucks or whatever, and planes. And it works great for that, just kind of protects it and makes it a little easier. So we're going to go ahead, grab our pin. Okay, and then I'll just use some of this here wire to to wire up both sides. So we'll tin this up. And then, just for giggles, since side, that's the 5 volts. Measure 5 volts on it. There's no question about it until I get it installed. Okay, there's our 5 volt back, or BEC, or voltage regulator. Okay, so let's go ahead and wire this here. It doesn't matter where it goes. Now let's take a look at the frame. This is I remember years ago when I first got in the hobby buying some of these. And I don't need to do that anymore. I've got so many. Because I just don't use them very often. Okay. This is our flight controller. This is Hyperlight's F4. And this is designed by FPVKabob. That guy's wicked smart. If you want to get it, you know, it's so interesting. We watch all, you know, just like you, I watch all these guys, and we've got people like Joshua Bardwell, and he comes from it from a lot of angles, but it seems like he's, you know, on the electronic side, right? And then FPVKabob, he builds frames and designs frames, and he does all the Hyperlight frames, and so he comes from it from kind of design and aerodynamics and stuff like that. So it's just, I love the stuff. So this is our F4 that we're going to be putting in, and we'll be running 5 volts to it. And so I'm going to just bring the frame over and kind of place stuff in there and just see room and space and how we want to run this thing. Okay, so so that's there, and then this there, and we'll slide the voltage regulator in between. So I'm going to run off of here and run this probably off to the side here just to kind of save room, because it's up a little high there. You see how that's kind of peaked there a little bit, so I'll just run it off to the side here probably. That's possible. Can almost fit it under. Can I fit it under here? Yeah. Oh, there we go. That's where she's going to lie. Right there is where the voltage regulator is going to sit. Okay, so we just need enough wire from this one to go from here. I mean, just very little, because we're just going to there. Okay, so let's cut that and trim it. So I always like to, you know, even though we need very little, I always like to have room if I need to pull. So if I needed to pull for some reason this off, I want enough room to be able to do that. So I'm going to take it to about there, which is, oh, what, 30? Yeah, 30 millimeters. Snip it, put our wire back, and I'll tin it up. Okay, there we have it trimmed. So we're going to solder this. Make sure we have it, there's enough. I'll probably put a little more solder on there. Confirm that is in the right place, and it is. Okay, we're going to go ahead. I don't need to leave this tape on here anymore because we already know what 5 volt out is, because it's the only wire it's not wired. So what we're going to do here, we'll simply just mount that in there. Okay. Okay. All right. Back. I don't have as much space with the camera here on as I normally do, and I'm over to the side too, so it's taking me a little bit to know where to put. I always usually am over here, but where the camera is, it just didn't work out that way. So we're gonna need to trim back. Yeah, that, or just actually probably the best thing is just take a file, poke it through. You want to be careful, you know, when you're wiring this stuff. You can see these end pieces. They're end pieces. Am I hitting that with my head? Because it's shaking all the time. It's like getting this resonating thing going on where it's moving. Weird. So you can see how close that is to the standoffs. Now the standoffs are going to be are aluminum, but the other standoffs are metal or plastic, so that helps. But you just got to be careful when, you know, just take note of that when you install it. So let's go ahead and figure out what standoffs we're going to use. There's all of them mounted up. So then the flight controller will go on this way. You can rotate it whatever way you want to. I'm probably going to rotate it out this way because all the motor leads are here and that wire's there just to make it cleaner. So on this side, this is where the motor leads go. On this side you have your UARTs, you have S-Bus. So we're going to go boom, boom, boom. Okay. You don't have to worry about if you're running a Spectrum, you would run 3.3 volts out of here, but we're not running a Spectrum. So, and then the 5 volts we're going to just put on channel 6. Okay, so we're going to come in from here with the 5 volts to channel 6. Obviously run 1, 2, 3, 4, and then we have our receiver. So that's about it. Okay, so now we're going to run the wires. Now, the standoffs on this one, we got 4. Kind of cool. I'm sure that Skitzo had these done, because I've not seen them this kind of dark purple, which is cool. Still am a fan of purple, so we're going to run those. Those are where the standoffs are. So they're not, sometimes the standoffs aid in you know, kind of running things through, but what we're going to do with this one is we're going to run our wires in either that way or that, or yeah, we're going to run them in here this way. Okay, boom. So just do them one at a time. Now you can, you know, if you're wanting to be real, one a certain way, you know, it is possible. I have seen guys that run them underneath and up and through, but this works just fine. You know, like I said in the previously, this is not a showpiece. This one is the racer. So okay, so there's all of them wired up. Like I said, I'm just going to put a piece of tape and hold it down there, and that'll keep it nice and secure, and it'll be nice and clean. I don't worry about which, you know, wires that I'm connecting where, because I will just adjust it in CleanFlight. I'm sorry, in BLHeli Suite. And so we've now have 5 volts, which is going to be here. We need to wire our XT60, and we've got the motors wired. So you know, because we don't have a PDB, then the next step then is going to be mounting the flight controller and any kind of power requirements that we're going to need for the VTX. Thought I'd show you the wiring harness for this. So on this one, you know, black is ground, red is not used. On this, it would be, if it's on some of their Lumeniers, they have a 20 amp 4-in-1 that does have a 5 volt regulator. So that's what that is, red wires for, but it is not used in this specific one. And then we have orange is motor 1, blue is motor 4, yellow is motor 3, and green is motor 2. Okay, so just to let you guys know. I don't know if you can see in there, but I tapped on and got straight LiPo power for our VTX. Okay, once I get it in there, I just want to make sure, you know, that there's nothing even close to the carbon fiber, which we've got plenty of clearance. but just, you know, in case of things getting moved around a little bit in a crash. So let's go ahead. So now we've got our, this is basically voltage straight from the LiPo, okay? So that's what we're going to run the VTX off of. We're not going to do that now, but that would be could be the next step if you wanted to run that and get that little pigtail going. But I'm going to go ahead and work on getting the flight controller on, getting this XT60 plug wired, and then we'll go ahead and wire up the flight controller, okay? You know, one of the things that it can be a little confusing is, you know, on this M1, which is orange, is actually going to go to motor position number 3, right? 1, 2, 3, 4. So what I do is take a piece of paper and I'm going to write down M1, okay? Actually, sorry, doesn't matter what it is. So orange, you glad I'm doing this the right way? Equals M3, okay? So then we go to blue is M4, and M4 is actually right. So blue, that's the only one that's going to be right on this whole thing, is M4, okay? Yellow is M3, so M3 is position 2. So yellow, M2, okay? And then green is M2 here, which is actually M1. So one of the nice things about having a wiring harness like this, rather than individual wires running from, you know, if you've got an ESC, you have 4 of these wires running in different places, and so you mount and everything. Well, the nice thing about having a wiring harness like this is that I can take my handy dandy quad hands. I don't know what I would do without these, get frustrated, but I can take them. Make sure you guys got a good view of that. So that needs to go a little further away, right? Perfect. So I'm going to take this, okay, and now I have a great platform to be able to wire this. No longer, you know, if in normal situations the ESCs are mounted here and you've got 4 wires coming in and you got to get your flight controller in there and wire it up. And that's what we all have to do, but this just makes it really smooth and really easy, and you can just run the wires up and through. So what we're going to do now is make sure we're recording. I'm sorry guys, this is a new camera to me, this little GoPro Hero 5 with this touchscreen and all that stuff, so I'm making sure that I'm doing everything right, because I do not want to have to redo this, because I can't. I can only do it one time. Excuse me. So let's check length. So we're coming from here up to the flight controller. So we don't need it to be that long, because we're going to run the flight controller. We're going to run it at a 90-degree angle, so it's going to come up here. So we're going to shave. I'll give you a measurement here when I'm done. Okay, so there's all of them tinned up. And now make sure we're in shot. Yep. Take our pen. Give it a little push. Make sure we got stuff coming out of it. I like to, on these, hit underneath as well so that it flows through. Okay, so 1 is green. Get this over here a little bit. Are we recording? Yeah. Now one thing I'm going to do here, can you guys still see that? Yeah, right. Yeah. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and just get them all kind of loaded. 1, M2 is yellow. 2, and you can push them up through if you want to push them further up, just to make sure that they're in there, and then you know, push them down where they're the right, but just to kind of get them loaded. Blue is M4, I believe, so orange is M3. That wire, always, you know, if you got little strands of wire, man, you got to be careful, especially underneath. That wasn't a strand of wire, that was just a thread from something, but you do have to be careful, because if you're not, this ground can go anywhere. If you're not careful, it can bridge 2 points and then you're in trouble. So now I have them where I need them to be. Okay, let's make sure you can see that. I need to go a little further out, make it easier for you. Okay. Now I can pull them down through. The one that's going to need the most most amount of time. So what I like to do is push them to where I can see I want to make sure this is really in shot good for you guys. Okay, push them to where I can see the actual wire insulation, and then pull it back down, and then I know how far. Now the ground is going to take the most heat. So these other ones you can get right on it, right off of it. The ground takes a little bit more, and the reason that is because the ground goes, you know, it's throughout a lot of different places on this flight controller, right? All the ground, every ground position on this flight controller is connected. So that's why it's see the difference in the amount of time it just takes. Just grabs it right away. Good, you don't want to sit on it too long. You can see there the solder. Can you see that? The solder is flowing, but there's just not quite enough on there. So we're gonna add a little bit more. Same here. Okay. And I always like to pull it up and check underneath. Make sure nothing's touching. Okay. And then trim them. Now this is another time you got to be careful. You want to make sure those pieces that you trim it with are not sitting here somewhere on the flight controller and going to cause havoc at another time. Okay. Oh, wrong pin. That would not have. Okay, so here we're going to grab the 5 volts and S bus. So we're going to be running on this one. Let's go ahead and tin number 6 too, because that's where our 5 volts is going to be coming in. So this is 5 volts out. And since I'm going to be running an S-Bus X4R, I should have in here. As far as length, you know, this is going to mount. Here's the front, and we're probably going to mount the receiver. You know what? I think I'm going to run an XSR on this one simply because it will fit in there a lot better. We'll see at the end. Either way, if it's an XSR, then I can just change the pin, but it's going to run somewhere in here probably. So okay, so let's go ahead and wire up. Where our receiver's going to go, so get a little and the same thing here is going to apply. That ground is going to take more time. If you can see, man, on these other ones, okay, I'll clean this up, and the only other thing that we've got to do is run our 5 volts, which we'll have to do when we're down inside, you know, mounted in the craft. Okay. Okay, so now we're going to wire up this 5 volt. Okay. And then, like I said, you could put this in number 5, you could put it in number 6. We're going to put it in number 6 just because it's easier because it's more out of the way. These you don't have to worry about them pulling through as much because the wire is bigger, and so it's, as you can see, it's not going to go all the way through. Check underneath, they're nice and flush. I really only need to trim that one, and we'll clean those up. And now we have our 5 volts. So now we're ready to go ahead. We got the 5 volts on. We can go ahead and plug this bugger in. There we go. So the flight controller's done. Let's go ahead and mount up the XT60. Let me grab a plug. This is a place I definitely like to use this flux. So it just makes everything flow a little bit better. Okay, so I found the shrink, a couple pieces, slide it down on there. I went ahead and re-tinned these, although they're already tinned. I like to re-tin them because you never know the quality of their tin. Another thing that I want to do here is, this is, I believe this is the right size. Yeah, it just barely fits on there. This is 3-in-1 shrink. Normally our shrink tube is 2-in-1, so in other words, it shrinks by half. And this shrinks 3 times, so it really works great for these kind of plugs, to where you've got a really wide area here, but you kind of want it to shrink down into the shorter area. And I use these so that when you're unplugging and plugging, you know, you can grab this, and I'll show you when it's all said and done, but you can grab that, and that is what you end up using, you know, to unplug, and it just lasts a lot longer. Okay, so I got it slid on, and you'll see here, it does take more heat, but it really is a thick material. And what this does is when you're unplugging, instead of grabbing just the wire, you're actually grabbing and actually pulling on the connector. Okay. Flight controller's in. Just going to put one screw in there for now, just in case I need to get back to it. So the only thing left really is to wire up the VTX. So let's do that next. These Tramps are great. You know, they have the ability to where if you have a wand, you can just wave it over this little dongle here that receives a signal that will tell it. You can switch channels, bands, you can change how much power is going through it. You know, if you kind of fly by yourself and you want to run it wide open at 600, then you can. Then when you're with other people, you just swipe the wand, take it to 200. If you're flying indoors, swipe. I mean, it's just a really great way to use it. So, but if you don't have that, it's a simple, you know, you just unplug that and you don't have any more weight. And then all of the wires and even a piece of sticky tape is in here. And we're just going to go with the one without any connection. Okay. All right, well, I'm going to tell you right now, doing this on camera has definitely got me out of my normal comfort zone. And because of that, I actually mounted everything in backwards. In other words, the front was the back and the back was the front. Well, it's really easy to fix that. You just, you know, loosen all the screws, pull this out, switch it around. Did that off camera, but I just didn't want you guys to, you know, you guys might have noticed it right away. You know, the tapered end on this end, a lot of times they taper towards the front, and that really threw me off. So anyways, let's get into mounting the standoffs. All right, standoffs are mounted. So really the only thing left here is we're going to be mounting our camera up front here. And, you know, I'll have to, you know, the arrow being 1189 camera as opposed to 1177, you know, it just sometimes it fits a little different. So I'll do a test fit and we'll see if everything goes smoothly. I need to empty out my trash because it's getting full. All right, so you can see it fits in there. It's got these two little recessed cutouts here. And so we just screw in these. Now, because these are machined, I put a little bit of thread lock on the screws as well. And then you can see the top mount will go, our top plate will go right up here, and we will be good. So we can continue on. I don't have this screwed down tightly. I already went ahead and put the 2.5 lens on there. And so now we can just go to finding where we want to mount the VTX. So I'm going to do a little bit of test fitting and seeing where everything should go. Okay, so I figured that this was the best place to mount it. And I use this where you can see the wiring diagram right through the front. That was an easy way for me to remember. This is not flat, so what I do, let's just take and score this right here just to separate the two pieces. Okay, so now that's flat. We'll go ahead and take some of the clear, and I'm going to double it up there to kind of even it out. No, bear back. Okay, so we're going to go ahead and mount this. And like I said, we doubled. We're going to mount it there. Okay, I made sure and I made sure that there was enough clearance with this, with the camera, yeah, actually with the camera. Okay, so if you want to put zip ties on it, you can, but you know, you don't really want this to be super uber secure, because you know, if something breaks loose, you want this to kind of give a little bit. So okay, so now we're going to, so one of the issues, my plan is because I'm using these flexible linear antennas, so you can mount them on the top plate without a problem. And that was my plan. However, the included mount is fiberglass, and he did that, I guess, because maybe it was an afterthought, and you know, a lot of guys are putting the stickers on. I don't want the stickers. But I also don't want a piece of fiberglass sticking out the back, so I'm going to go ahead and mount it straight out the back, I think. So that's cool. Okay, so we've got to tap or pull power from, you know, direct LiPo power. So what we're going to do, and this is for the on the Aero camera. This is so we can get our voltage and amperage for the OSD. Okay, so that's that purple one. These two little white and black ones go to this, so that you can really easily program and change your name and all that, change the name of it. And then simply 5 volts ground, and then also there's your video signal. So we're going to tap and use the same wire that's coming straight from the LiPo that's going to the VTX as well, but that's where we're going to tap it. Okay, we're going to use the clear. We've got some really small clear shrink tube here. So let's do here. Here we go, ground and positive. We're not going very far, we're just going from right there to right here. We'll give ourselves some slack, but about 25. So now this is coming from the camera side, so it's real simple. You just pretty much match up colors, although it's not red, it's kind of an orange, but you just match them up. We're going to give ourselves enough slack to where we can go from here to here without any problems. And then that's about it. So I'm going to go ahead and splice those, and I'll be right back. Okay, so let's see here, make sure everything's in shot. Okay. So I had a hard time doing it on camera, so I'm sorry guys, but you know, I spliced in the 5 volts going from the VTX into the camera. Okay, you can see, and then we went ahead and screwed down the rest of the flight controller, because the last step here really before mounting the VTX is go ahead and get this plugged in. Sometimes it can be hard to reach just because, although this one's easy. It's one of the reasons I leave a little bit of slack, is because, let me give that another twist, because it just makes it all kind of fit together better at the end. Okay, when you push that top plate on, you're going to need to push in on that standoff. Okay, so the only thing we're going to have left is this receiver. I'm going to go ahead and mount this top plate because I'm not decided 100% on the receiver yet. I like the X4R simply because of the replaceable antennas and how easy it is to replace it. Yeah, what I'm checking here, guys, is the amount of tilt, and that's all he's going to need. He's probably going to run it more around 35. So you could move this back if you're running into issues and you're wanting to get more tilt on it. You can do that. It's just a matter of adjusting things, but this is going to work out perfectly for what we're doing. Okay, so my vendor's out of stock on the XSRs and the X4Rs, but I happen to have one, so which is good. And so we're going to mount that in right there. Put some double-sided tape. Probably what I'm going to do is just to build this up a little bit in the back. Okay, so we're going to run the antennas out this way. Okay. So I'm still debating, guys, on the whole antenna thing. Not using I really want to run it out the top because like I said, I've got these flexible antennas, but not using, I could, I'm still debating on it. You guys are probably like, oh my gosh, is this the way they all go? No, but I have a certain way I want things to go, and if it's, sometimes I have to go back and forth. So I'll be right back. Okay, I don't know, your skill level or whatever, so I don't know if you've ever done these, but the way I do antennas, especially X4R, are long, So I cut off a zip tie and run shrink tube and run them up that way. And then they run perfectly off of a standoff. See, perfectly, and then it's not going so perfect, okay? Bend these over a little bit. Bend them over a little more than what you want to bend them. Then that puts them back there kind of. And then once we get because what's going to happen is when the top plate gets put on there, it's going to push these back. Okay, like that. Because of how the top plate is designed, right? It kind of sticks back like that, and that actually aids us because that's what we want. Needs a little bit more heat. Okay, as much as I really didn't want to run this plate this way, this is the best solution for mounting the antenna and everything. So we're going to go ahead and mount it this way. my wrench. Okay. The many uses of the Hyperlight wrench. Okay. That actually doesn't look bad at all, especially once that's on there. I don't know why it changes it, but this now goes on here, and it's going to be nice and secure. You know, you don't have this big antenna sitting up there. So what I'm going to do, I think actually, is I'm going to put this in some shrink tube, and that way I can angle them the way I want them, like I'm going to do with the antennas. Okay, so okay, well, you can see I went ahead and put the sticker on the top, and that's okay. You know, it's really the only thing that is distinct about this frame as far as just you know, when you look at it. So I'm kind of okay with it. I don't like it all over everywhere, but I think it looks okay there. So that's what we're gonna do. And now we're going to take some of the shrink tube. Should have some more here that is for now we're going to get everything exactly where we want it as far as our antennas. This is just a okay, there it is. That is the finished product. Now I'm gonna run some tape here and get everything programmed for it. I'm not going to show the programming. There's plenty of videos out there that show how to set up Betaflight or Clean Flight or whatever you're going to use. And since they're all the same going from one frame to the next, no real reason to do that here. I will be running Betaflight on this, and yeah, that's really it. Take a look at everything. Comes out pretty clean, especially with the 4-in-1. Alright, so we'll get some flight footage of this a little bit later, but thanks so much, guys. Thanks for hanging in there. Have no idea how long this is going to end up being at the end because I've got to do all the editing, and that's probably going to be something in and of itself. So thanks, guys. Okay, one of the things I do when I first hover is just flip the arm switch back and forth a couple times just to make sure there's no issues, and then just I take it into a light hover, see how it's, you know, hovering, and if there's any oscillations that are obvious, anything that's obvious right off the bat. And then I'm going to go into tuning later. All right, that's it, guys. That's the Skitzo dark matter build. And, you know, we had a few little issues, you know, as you could see, we started with the bottom plate in backwards, and you know that stuff happens from time to time on a new frame, and but it was an easy switch, and I had fun building it. I really did. I got up super early in the morning so that I could get it done, and I feel like the editing took me as long as the build did, but I'll get better at that. You know, as I get further on, I'll get better at knowing what to record and how long to take and all that stuff. So thanks so much, guys, for sticking with me. Check out my website, xframesfpv.com, where you can see builds that I've done. I need to update it, but there, you know, you can get an idea of pricing. Pricing is current. Just some of the frames that I'm using now are different. You can use any frames you'd like. I can spec things out for you or whatever you want. So again, thanks so much, guys, for sticking with me. I hope you got some time to fly.